Hey, it's Norm from Tested.com. I'm joined once again by Frank Ippolito. Frank, how are you doing?
I am exhausted.
You've been working away on the Zoidberg Project, which if you haven't checked it out on the website, Frank, you've been writing up all these write-ups detailing your fabrication process, your molding, your casting.
When I make mistakes.
When you make mistakes. And we are just a couple of weeks away from WonderCon,
Yeah.
where we're going to unveil the project. So where is it right now?
Right now we have the foam latex casting, and pretty much all that's left is to install the animatronics, paint it, and then throw the eyes in it.
So that's what we're here to do today. We wanted to visit you to learn about that painting process. A lot of people, when they build their props or build their costumes, whatever, depending on what material they want to use, they have their own painting methodology. So what's your painting method?
I use a mix-up of brush painting and airbrushing. We're going to do a lot of airbrushing on this one just because I think it lends itself with the kind of organic nature that it is.
So when people watch you on Face Off, for example, they saw a lot of that airbrushing, the final touch-up stuff. And how important is airbrushing? What can airbrushing do that using brushing can't?
They both have their pros and cons, and I think that a good airbrush artist can airbrush similar to a hand painting, and hand painting people can hand paint similar to airbrushing. So it's just kind of mixing up the technique so that it doesn't look too painterly, I guess.
All right. And you want to add some texture and mix colors.
Yeah, breakups. Just because Zoidberg is, orangey red in the cartoon, we don't want to just spray him red.
Right.
If you think about like a cooked lobster, it's not just plain red. There's a lot of breakup in colors. There's little browns and maybe some yellows or fleshy tones and stuff.
So I've never done any airbrushing before in my life. If I want to get started, what are the tools I need to know how to use?
Well, the first thing we need is a compressor.
Okay.
I have a pretty big compressor because multiple people might be working off the compressor, so this one will run 2 hoses. And you need an airbrush. The first 2 big categories are single and double action. This one's single action, where the only thing that you do is push down on the button, and that's the only control you have on it. That means the air and the paint all come out all at once, and you have no control over the amount of either of them. And you can dial how much paint comes in and out with this little twisty thing in the back. But that's it, this one button, one action. And then there's double action, which is this, where when you push down, that makes air go out. And when you pull back, you can control how much paint. So where this just kind of, you set it at, full blast, and that's what you paint with. This you can do a little bit, and then you pull all the way back, and then you can go full blast. You could get a lot of...
As you're painting,
yes,
you can change the amount of paint.
Yes.
In terms of the application. And then you have these really big pieces here.
These are all double action. You pull the trigger a little bit, and that's air, and then you pull the rest, and that's your control of paint. Like when I was on Face Off, I used one of these 2 I don't remember, to paint things very quickly. So if I'm painting like a big giant fat suit, I could take this and just base it out real quick. You could dial the air down real low and just kind of pull the trigger a little bit, and it just kind of spatters and does breakup. So this is actually a really versatile gun for doing really big stuff quickly.
So where should someone start?
I always tell people to start with one of these, an Iwata Eclipse or a Revolution. They're hand in hand. I don't really have a preference which one I like better. It's just whichever one I grab. And it's around $100-ish, maybe a couple more than 100, But it's a good airbrush. I've had one of these is about 14 years old. I don't know which one it is. They all look the same. But first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to base it out, and I'm going to use rubber cement paint. So this is thinned down rubber cement. So if you get just regular rubber cement from the craft store or whatever, then you thin it down with naphtha. You just get this paint base, and then from there you just add oil paints. And so I'll mix the base colors that I want to do, and I'll brush that on just to kind of base the whole thing out. Because right now, there's a little bit of color differentiation from the seam and just some swirls from when it gets injected. So I'm going to base it out a couple of colors.
One base paint with the rubber cement, and that's to cover the entire thing.
That's, to give you kind of an even surface.
And then you're using these cans here.
These are just ball jars for canning and stuff. So I'll put some paint in there and some stuff, and that way I could mix it up really easily. And I have a jar of just the base color. So if I ever need to touch something up, I have that mixed up. So that'll be the first step, and then I'm going to go in with these other colors, which are Tim Gore's Bloodline. Tim Gore's a really great painter in the makeup effects industry, and Createx came out with a paint line for him, which is a water-based set of paints. And then I'll do all the modeling and detail and all that other stuff. Then I may bounce back and forth between the rubber cement paint and this water-based, but that's pretty much what I'm going to use to paint Zoidberg.
All right, so I'll let you get to work, and we'll check in after you finish that first base coat.
Cool.
Frank, now that's starting to look a little bit like Zoidberg.
Getting there.
So this is that rubber cement.
Yeah, so I took rubber cement and I put oil paint inside of it and just shake it up. And then I took 2 colors. I decided I wanted to put a yellow undertone in there too.
Okay.
So I kind of spotted up the yellow and this salmon-y color.
Salmon and yellow are the undertones. It's that base sublayer before you start adding texture.
Yeah, this will give me a foundation to start building all of the other subsurface colors. And I don't want to get too intricate with this paint job because he's just a flat cartoon color, but I also just don't want to paint him one solid color. So I'm gonna start putting in, bring out some more reds and a little bit more variations in skin tone.
When you're painting something that's supposed to look lifelike and represent skin or even the crustacean skin, how many layers do you actually end up using, and how do you build out that process?
It varies. Like when you're doing like skin texture and stuff, like if I was just painting like your head or something like that, I don't know, there's probably half a dozen colors that I would use. There's mauves and purples, and there's a color Payne's Gray that I just love using to pop a lot of these things. People used to go into the makeup counter and say, oh, I'm a whatever color. Yeah. That's not really what skin tone is. There's so many other colors that are inside of that. And I think when we did that makeup on Will's forehead, I talked about if you look at the palm of your hand, how you can see all that little breakup and all those little colors that are in there. And that's kind of what you need to think about.
All right, now you're on to the airbrushing.
Yep.
So let's get started with that. All right, Frank, it's starting to look a lot more textured, a little more like a lobster.
Getting there.
So let's cover what you did with the airbrush. First of all, you have little things of paint here, and you're just mixing the paint inside?
Yeah, what I'm doing is I'm kind of bouncing between a bunch of different colors. Some oranges, like putting some more reds and pinks and salmons. And then if you put your finger on the front of this,
yeah,
you can just touch it, push it on there, and then I give it air.
Yep.
It'll back bubble.
Oh, all right.
And so what's that doing is that's forcing air back up into this thing, which kind of swirls the paint a little bit.
Okay.
So,
and we can see right here all different color mixtures you've used so far.
Blasting out a bunch of different colors.
And then what's your technique like to actually apply that?
A lot of these I'm going in kind of circular patterns. I kind of paint in figure eights sometimes. There's a lot of guys that do that, and that works good for like kind of an underpainting to kind of give this mottled, organic kind of feel, because I don't think that this is a hard shell. I think that this is a soft, part of his head. I think he maybe has a shell underneath, but this is all soft, so it's got to feel squishy kind of. And then I'm just kind of, working in colors and messing around with, the lighter colors and darker colors just to kind of contour and break it up so that it's not all just like bright red. If you look at things like maybe Hellboy is a red character. He's not just painted like,
One
red roller
red.
and then roll in red. There's a lot of different colors. And it's actually a really hard color to kind of paint a character because, reds are kind of a complicated color. Reds can be shifted towards purples or blues or oranges or magentas. There's a lot of ways that a red character can go wrong when you're painting it. So right now I'm just kind of playing with things. I'm putting some more oranges on there, and then I'll even take a little bit more of this base tone and just brush a little bit of that on there and set some stuff back. And I can keep kind of building up paint in thin layers, and it's not doing anything to the foam. The cool thing about using rubber cement paint is that it doesn't really create another skin or another layer. This foam is still soft and still gonna move the way it should. And these acrylics, I'm putting them on in such thin washes that it's not really building up a skin either, because I don't want this, when it moves to crease real bad.
Yeah. Are you being mindful of where you've created the crease lines and also where these joints are between your cast parts?
The seam of the front and the back of the mold was patched up, and there's a little bit of an indication of where that is. And so I've kind of made sure to kind of model up the stuff and draw your attention away from it. Hopefully people aren't noticing that and going right for it, because then I'm doing something wrong. But I also want to take my time when I'm painting to kind of work that out.
All right, we'll give you more time to add more depth to this and check in a little bit.
Cool.
Okay, you've added a ton of paint, but this is not even near finished, is it?
No, there's still a bunch more layers and a bunch more kind of fiddling that I want to do. It's a little too red. I want to bring it a little bit more to a salmony color.
And it's something that you're going to work on, basically all the way up until we're going to reveal this.
Just like with the sculpture, how I kept tweaking it, and I would just set it aside and then look at it, and I'm probably going to fiddle with this a little bit more like that all the way until WonderCon.
Right. A big difference now, you have eyes, so tell me about the eyes.
So what I did is I had these eye forms that I sent to Harrison Cricks, who built the needler prop for you guys. And I asked him to laser cut holes of different sizes into these clear domes. I wasn't sure which way I wanted to go, but after meeting with the directors from Futurama, we kind of drew on my sculpture, and we came up with 9/16 being the correct size. So this is going to be the final eye size. And so then this hole in the center is what you'll be able to see out of for traveling. For a display head, I'll make a finished eye that doesn't have a hole in it, but for a mask, you need to be able to see out of something. So that's what we're going to do. And then I'll mess around with whether or not I put some screen behind it, or how we make that a little bit more black. But that's something else that I'm going to fiddle with between now and WonderCon.
Yeah, I mean, the big lesson it's all a work in progress. You're always fiddling with it. The painting is something that you don't sit down and know exactly how it's going to turn out. You're experimenting with a ton of different colors, and that's why airbrushing helps, because you can just try all these colors.
Yeah, and if I want to homogenize it more, I could just spray it over the whole thing, or if I can just put little bits in little areas, and it's all just a huge process and huge trial and error. Like, nobody's just born knowing exactly what to do. And through practicing, you can kind of figure out a good road to kind of follow, but you're always going to deviate.
This is so exciting. WonderCon is coming up. We're going to see this at WonderCon. Check tested.com for more of the Zoidberg project. Frank has amazing write-ups, and we have, for premium members, a full time lapse of this paint job for you to see Frank's work in progress. Thank you so much.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, we'll see you guys at WonderCon.
I'm excited.
Bye.